the protest that started on the 19th continues unabated, and what we can say about it, a lot we can actually say about it.
No, just
Yeah,
just
it's
a section of the
I mean, the most silent feature of these protests is that the peacefulness of them protest.
Yes.
And even one of the slogans that people keep on repeating is that it's going to be peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. So we haven't really seen any signs of attempts for destruction of, say, any
Property.
any property, you know. And the other silent feature of it is young people, as you may expect, and people of all actually denominations of life are taking part of it. But you know, it's remarkable that the amount of young Sudanese that are taking active role in making this protest to continue and sustain. And the other silent feature of this also is it wasn't confined to Khartoum, as you might expect, and that is the biggest urban center of the country. But if anything, actually, it is started from cities and towns outside Khartoum, and then it spread it over to Khartoum. And
I think Sudanese often gone to Darfur as well.
well, I'm not sure about the war zones. As you may expect, these are very sensitive areas where actually a lot of blood is being already spilled, and you expect the war nature, combat nature of the ground. So people in these war zones are a bit careful, and you know, as you may understand.
Yeah.
But in all other towns, and it started remarkably with Atbara, which is to the north, and then spread it to other places in the north, and then started to, you know.
Okay. Do you want to remind our listeners? Sorry to interject. Do you want to remind our listeners the purpose of why they're protesting?
I mean, why they protest? Let us see what's on the ground, what's happening in reality of life. Is basically the same thing, the same impressions that I came with when I visited Sudan last time. Poverty, and the economy itself is in dire shape. And when I went over to Sudan, and I saw queues of bread, queues of oil products, queues of gas, and queues of cash, because the whole banking system seemed to have, completely run out of cash. So if you have any deposits, if you want to cash your salary, there is no way. You will have to wait in a queue at the bank. Not only that, the ceiling, the limit of the amount of cash that you can get is very, very low. Maybe 1,000 Sudanese pound. Yeah, in some cities, and in some other cities, it's like 300 pounds only. In some other cities outside Khartoum.
Per withdrawal or per day?
Per day,
Okay.
basically. And at the same time, you know, the inflation is at its highest possible level. So if you want medicine, if you want to take a relative of you to the hospital, it's not only expensive, but you can hardly find the cash actually to buy medicine.
Yeah, I think the last nail on the coffin was when there was a price increase on petrol and food items.
Petrol is one. Petrol is there is a shortage of it, and it's other food products as well, and in particular bread bread is always been, in very short supply, and there were queues, long queues for bread, and bread is the main staple, food in Sudan, and this, but this all I say this is probably the straw that broke the camel
Yeah,
back.
well, I don't
But
understand the economics behind it. When things are difficult like that and you keep on increasing, and people are not productive, and you're increasing the price,
see why see why what's happening is a complete failure of the management of the economy, and the country for the last maybe 3-4 years ran out of foreign currency completely, particularly after, you know, oil that used to come from the south is no longer. So foreign currency reserves depleted completely, and the country find it very difficult to go out there, buy, food, buy oil products.
Yeah.
So this is what caused. So it's matter of supply, because there is no in the country any foreign currency reserve for them to be able to acquire these important commodities, and that is why, and due to the management of the
And
economy,
there's no internal production, if you want.
and that is where everything comes down to, because Sudan used to be largely,
Self-sufficient
sufficient
in
in these products like this, but it's no longer, because basically the productive base of the economy is being hit hard after the discovery of and production of oil.
Right.
That sector is completely being ignored. Not only that, policies that brought down this parastatus production, all these enterprises, the public-owned enterprise were sold off, supposed to be privatized,
Yeah.
but it's gone down, to corruption.
The cronies.
Cronies took over, and they were not able to sustain any decent level of production, as you may expect.
The veteran syndrome in Zimbabwe.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and that was, the cause, that was the illness. And what we saw lately are just the symptoms of what is going. So it's a failure, a total failure by the government to manage the economy.
So the objective of this protest, is it to replace the government, or the government of al-Bashir?
The impression I have, and also judging by the slogans that's going on the streets,
Yeah.
they will say, we want this government out, and this is the slogan.
So that's the ultimate.
So they say, what we want the government out. What we want al-Bashir to fall. And this is becoming like the people are making it categorically clear that this country has no future while al-Bashir is on power. And we know this because...
So isn't that dangerous? Because it's taking a political tone now.
Yes, and clear political tone. Not only that, you can see clear cracks within the ruling class, within the ruling party. Some of the parties that were, in a coalition of some kind with the government, all came out, 22 of them, and these were very, it's an opposition which was domesticated, if you like, sort of. These are people who chose to be part of the opposition, in consistency with what al-Bashir want them to do. So they were very domesticated, if you like, sort of opposition parties. Even them, now 22 of them came out and say, look, this has no future. What we're looking for is for this government to go, and we are looking to get some sort of transitional arrangement.
Isn't there a historical perspective to this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is what is assuring, because when you say it's dangerous, and this is even the tune that government plays, say, look, because we're in control of the country, we can provide peace, stability to the country. If we go, there is a danger that the whole country may go. This is what the government plays at. But when you look at the historical perspective, side of things, this is not new. So people are experiencing it, that dictatorships, two of them in the past, in 1964 and in 1984, they were dictatorship as strong as this one, if not stronger. But through civil action, people managed to replace them in a peaceful manner. So there is a history of this transitional arrangement taking over from a dictatorship, leading the country to elections. And this is what many people are hoping for now.
But isn't the police losing control of this thing? Because when Sudanese killing Sudanese, just because you are in uniform, they using live bullets,
And this is another feature of this current
Horrible,
protest. Yeah, this is another. The government seem to have completely run out of political and economic initiative. What they are able to, sort of project is only power. And it's ridiculous that while these people, young people, and you can see them how young they are, on the street protesting, you will see, like a war zone with even anti-craft mounted, anti-craft machines mounted. It's ridiculous that this amount of violence and this amount of force to be projected to confront people who are basically have nothing in their hand. They even not even have
no weapon, nothing.
Nothing whatsoever in terms of violence. And actually, as they face this, very bravely have to admit, when they face this amount of armament, the slogan they raise is, "We want this peacefully," which is
even in the face of death.
There were reported deaths. We're not sure of the statistic, but the reported deaths so far is about 20 of them, and most of them are live bullets used against this, and there were injuries also, some statistics, but it's still to be verified, and arrests among the leaders of the civil organization and the civil movement, civil society organizations also. A lot of them, and the estimate there is about 20,000 of them being arrested, rounded up, arrested, and they keep continually, every day. If you look at social media, you will see reporting of some people being arrested, and those, they try as much as they could to arrest those who were supposed to be leading the streets, peaceful civilian protest. And this is continued. This is one of the features, important features that,
Is Bashir being backed by the army, or that's why he's still hanging on to power?
And this is what really puzzles, sort of the observers now. Of late, the supporting base of al-Bashir seemed to have completely depreciated.
Crumbled.
Yeah, it really crumbled. And we saw him going by himself, actually. And there were like 2 or 3 occasions when he went out outside Khartoum and gave a speech outside Khartoum. And then there's another occasion when he went to see his police, the commanders, and he gave this speech where he seemed to contradict himself, asking the police to restrain, to use of force, and then towards the end of the street, he started, reciting these quotes from the Quran, saying that, you can strike them. Basically, you can, hit them, and if you punish them by death, then there is life in that. And this is a quotation from the
Quran,
from the Quran. So that sort of contradiction, and again of late he tried to, because the one of the organizations that is currently has been leading the protests is this coalition, if you like, or assembly of professional bodies, doctors, solicitors, engineers. They call them the.
So if the junior doctors are on strike in Sudan, as I suppose they are, what will happen?
Well, no strike as such is being declared yet, but to me, I think that's a plan which is being right now being left. Maybe in the future they will go into try to organize the general strike. But currently, it's a matter of protest. I think they have a protest planned for tomorrow. So this professional body of professionals is leading this, and the other thing is also you can see all of this being organized through social media, and this is this.
The other thing is if this guy Bashir steps down now, would that be a general election, and who will replace him?
The mechanism of transition is not clear, but I would expect
because you don't want to have a vacuum,
No. There wouldn't be a vacuum, and ultimately, some sort of force may have to step in to form that transitional body, and I would expect that transitional body to be. Because there are now many within the Bashir caucus himself are saying, look, this is now not sustainable.
The end game is
the end is there. We can see it. So let us step in and try to reach a compromise of some kind for a Bashir to step aside and some sort of a traditional body, to take over. And this professional body, the body of professionals, have, they have come out with a charter to which many of these bodies have signed, and that charter is asking for this transitional authority to take over, basically formed by, professionals, if you like, technocrats, to take over and basically to step in and
what would be the fate
settle the country and engage in economic reform.
So what will be the fate of al-Bashir?
This is the big question. I think now this is the big question. And this is what I think. This is what prevents him, because he's not sure of his safety. He could end up, being handed over to the Hague, to the ICC, and this probably what is preventing him. But he can see the base around him is crumbling, and probably in his delusion, he's not aware of this, because when you study what he's been saying in his late 3 or 4 speeches, you can see that there is a degree of alienation from reality that he's suffering from. Even his analysis, and in one of his speeches, he say, "Look, we are the Sudanese. We are too proud. Too proud. We are, to go to seek." Asylum somewhere else, to be refugees.
Maybe it might end up being one.
So, and, it's remarkable that a man in a country with millions and millions of displaced people, and there is hardly any single Sudanese not seeking to leave the country right now. Thousands and thousands of professionals,
Of course,
doctors,
I mean, but
engineers
I don't
are
know.
leaving the
I
country.
don't know the basis of Sudanese being proud to be refugees when it's run the economy aground. People
Exactly.
would like to seek
And
better life.
that's to me what really a good indication of how separated him, how delusional he's becoming. He's completely out of maybe the reporting. This is usually
Or maybe his advisors are advising him wrongly, too.
yeah.
It could be.
This is very consistent with dictatorships and dictators, approaching their end. They usually come out with these ridiculous statements. You don't know, where how they look, at reality, and this could be one of the reasons. So hopefully,
Yeah.
the coming days are gonna be, very interesting, if you like, and because the protest seems to just continue unabated. Tomorrow, the professional bodies declaring a big demonstration in Khartoum. The pressure is mounting, and the cracks have appeared to the base, on the base on which the government completely relies. So
So I mean, it will be very, very dangerous phase of the protest maybe next week, because this man is unpredictable. It could result to maybe
violence. But
more violence.
yeah, this is
Or the
possible.
threat of violence,
This is possible, and it's not. It's not so alien to his nature, because he has used. Remember in 2013 when about 200 people actually shot dead on the street of Khartoum, and that particular incident in 2013, or tragic events in 2013, are haunting him now. So he's not. And there were indication that some of his armed personnel are not willing to use lethal force against the protesters. There is a good indication that at least there is a hesitation. For him, also, there is a big hesitation, because this can only bring, mounting pressure on him, particularly by, international community, if he's to do that.
I'm just wondering why the international community has not stepped in. Is it because there are other international issues around the world that seem to ignore? Or African Union,
African Union, as usual, they seem to have left things to Mbeke, Tambo Mbeke, to them. He is the instrumental.
That's SADC, Is Sudan part of SADC or EAC?
They've got this Troika. I think Troika consists of 4 major countries. I think USA, and they've got Britain in
I'm
it.
just wondering whether the solution could be Africa, because you have like the East African Council or Congress, with consistence Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, and one other, Burundi.
Are you talking about IGAD?
Yeah.
IGAD is a bit of difficult. IGAD, I think, may step in at the next stage, but directly now, because they all have their own dealings with al-Bashir, whether it's Ethiopia, and you see how sensitive it is, whether it's been Eritrea, Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan. There are complications for them to step at this stage.
But I mean, the essence of these regional groupings to prevent this conflict in the first place.
IGAD is historically have played big role even in bringing about and managing to great extent, along with the Troika, the CPA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement. And they played role in what is happening in South Sudan. So they are not completely separate from the facts, from the running and solution
Well,
provided to.
If so for instance, as a result of this protest, more people lose their lives, is that when they will step in? Because I would have thought maybe because as they are like modeling their all these groupings against the European setup, but you don't have conflicts in Europe anymore. This type of conflicts, but we have these groupings and we still have conflicts. So what is the use of these groupings?
IGAD is supposed to be yes, conflict resolution, but it's supposed to be also that is in its purpose is supposed to be originally when it was created is to look at development issues and also desertification and environmental. This is what
So
the original.
So is that advisory only? They can't.
No, it's not only advisory. Actually, they can step in. They have playing a practical role. They do actually provide forces to South Sudan, to Sudan itself, to Somalia, and
but see, why I'm asking this question, it seems to be a very fine line where you have to step into a sovereign state as an intervention force. But there must be a mechanism where you have it on ground that you've got to prevent conflict in the first place as an institution of the African Union or whatever it is, or even part of the United Nations.
Well, prevention rather than cure.
Yes.
And this is, I think that this is what people envisage when they first form up IGAD, is to play a role in this. That's why the name itself is connected to development at the time and looking at environmental issues. Desertification was the main.
Because if you check all these things you've mentioned could be causes of conflict, maybe now and in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are probably the driving forces behind all these issues, because when you have the conflict is always a symptom of something deeper in terms of livelihood of people. I completely agree with you. And if this is being tackled, but this is an issue of development and conflict resolution. This, what are the government is supposed to be for? Looking at governance and issues of governance is of how well the governments are able to run the economies of the country and go down and dealing with all these issues, conflicts around the country, because these are countries are how fragile these countries can possibly be.
I just want to play the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody gets in there in place of al-Bashir and find out the reality, that's
the reality is harsh.
Yes, it must be harsh. You've got to have
but almost everyone agrees that now al-Bashir is an obstacle to even to the outside world to step in, because if we look at now the boycott by the Americans, which seem to be in theory lifted, but in practice plays, if you see that the country is still placed under terrorism, as is considered to be a source of terrorism by the international community, economically because of the corruption, because of the issues of radicalism and religious issues, conflict. No investors are happy, wanted to come in, and all these complications are created by the very regime we have in place now. the very fact that this regime goes, will allow at least some of this, will allow hope. And corruption itself, the regime, just 30 years of complete failure, and it's becoming too rigid, even to to reform. It just defies reform. You cannot reform a regime as it is. The very structure of the regime is becoming preventive to formation. So that is why if you push this structure aside and then allow energy, allow new vision, because basically they seem to have run out of initiative. They cannot do, even the economy as bad as it is, they don't seem to have a plan. They failed to produce a plan of how we do this. How can we rectify the situation? And this politically completely silent. They do not present any sort of initiative or any ideas, any vision to to deal with the situation on the ground.
Okay, let us just take a mandatory break. When we come back, we'll continue with the discussion.
Okay, thank you.